Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt show Jacob Morgan. He's the principal and co-founder of Chess Media Group, and he's the author of one of the Amazon best-selling books called The Collaborative Organization, and in fact coming out with a new book in September. Jacob, what's the new book about?
So the new book is called The Future of Work. It's being published by Wiley, and basically the book is about how the employee of the future is going to work, how managers of the future are going to lead, and how organizations of the future have to adapt, and how they are going to change the way that they're structured and organized.
Okay, so give us a little preview. What can we expect in terms of changes in the business world?
Oh, there are a lot of exciting things that are happening. On the employee side, we have some of the common things that we're seeing today around flexible work environments, millennials entering the workplace, new attitudes and expectations around how work should be done. As far as management goes, we're seeing a lot of things as far as challenging traditional management models that have currently been around. Things like, challenging annual employee reviews, traditional hierarchy, all that sort of stuff. And as far as how organizations are structured, again, we're seeing some interesting things around, replacing strict hierarchies with flatter structures, with working with smaller teams, with tapping into freelancers. So there are a lot of really interesting things that are happening, and those are some of the topics that I explore in the new book.
Are those changes something that we're seeing in some of the biggest businesses, or are they pretty happy with what they're doing and going to kind of stick with it?
No, some of the biggest companies in the world, whether you're talking about a Schneider Electric or a Unilever or an American Express, these are all organizations that are, making a lot of substantial changes to how employees are working and to what kind of organizations that these companies want to create going forward.
And to what do you attribute these changes to? Why are people looking to do something new?
Well, there are a couple of trends that are impacting the workplace. One of those trends happen to be technology. This ability for us to connect people and information anywhere, anytime, and on any device. That's certainly contributing to flexible work environments. It's also contributing to people, regardless of job title or where they are based, to be able to communicate with each other. We see other things such as new behaviors, which have been shaped by social media technologies. So, for example, you look at how we use Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. We share our personal history and our careers and stuff like that on LinkedIn. We share our locations on Foursquare, our thoughts and ideas on blogs and stuff like that. Yet within our organizations, we aren't able to do a lot of these things. So we have these types of behaviors that we exhibit in our personal lives that we really just can't have within the workplace. So there's a big disconnect. Mm-hmm. And then we have other things like millennials entering the workplace. We have globalization, stuff like that. So all these changes are dramatically impacting the workplace, and it's what organizations have to adapt to.
Mm-hmm. What is the characteristic? You've referred now a couple of times to millennials. What is characteristic about them that would make them different from people who entered the workforce, let's say, 10 or 15 or 20 years ago?
So that's an interesting question. There's a lot of debate around that. And, my personal view is that a lot of the attitudes and ideas and expectations that millennials have aren't necessarily unique. So, for example, people always say, millennials want to work for an organization that they care about. They want flexible work environments. They want real-time feedback. But the reality is that most people within organizations want those things, whether they are a Gen Xer or a millennial, or any other demographic group that they're a part of. It's something that most employees within organizations want. What's different about millennials is the fact that they are going to be the majority workforce by 2020. So it's not just the fact that it's new ideas and attitudes and expectations about work. It's the fact that there are so many of these types of people that are entering our workforce, which is forcing these organizations to adapt. So, it's not like they're aliens that are coming, into organizations and they have totally new expectations and something completely unheard of. It's just the fact that there's so many of them that it's acting as a really powerful catalyst for organizations, and I think it's a good thing.
Okay, so we'll look for change. We're talking to Jacob Morgan, who is the head of Chess Media Group. Jacob, you also wrote a book called The Collaborative Organization. Tell us a little bit about what that means and what is collaborative strategy.
Sure. So that book basically explores how organizations can make the most of these new social and collaborative platforms that are being deployed within organizations. And these are things like Chatter, Yammer, Jive, Mango apps. There's all sorts of really interesting collaborative technologies that organizations are starting to use internally to connect their employees. And so the book, The Collaborative Organization, is all around what organizations need to do, not just from a technology standpoint, but from a change management standpoint, to get these types of technologies and behaviors adopted within organizations. And one of the big challenges, for example, that a lot of companies have is they will deploy all these new great collaborative technologies, but then they'll find that a lot of their employees just don't use them. And so the book touches on things like, how do you get employees to use these technologies? How do you pick the right technologies? How do you understand the value from these technologies? All that sort of stuff. So it's a comprehensive strategy guide on how to connect and engage people and how to get your employees to collaborate and communicate more effectively using new technologies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's putting it all together. Jacob, one of the things that I think kind of attracted me to some of your writing and the work that you're doing is your website and, in fact, the name of your company, the Chess Media Group. Longtime listeners of the Goldstein on Gelt show know that I'm a big chess fan. In fact, I'm coming out now with a book with world chess champion Susan Polgar about how the strategies of chess can be applied to investing. The name of the book, I like to think cleverly, is titled Rich as a King. What was your connection with chess, and how are you connecting that with your media group?
So chess is something that my grandmother taught me how to play when I was very young, and I never played competitively, but when most people think of chess, they think of strategy, they think of creativity, they think of things related to that. And so my business partner and I, Connie, thought it would be a great idea for the name of a company. So that's what we went with. But I also use chess in a lot of references during my keynote presentations, during things that I talk about, specifically that, the common fact that there are more possible chess moves than there are atoms in the entire universe and seconds that have elapsed since the Big Bang. So I always equate that to the world of collaboration and the future of work because, there's so many things that are happening, it's impossible to predict. But just like in chess, we can look for certain patterns or scenarios that might come up over and over that will help guide us, as to what the next move should be. And it's interesting because in the new book that I have coming out, The Future of Work in September, I actually talk a little bit about Magnus Carlsen, who's the number one player in the world now, and his unique approach to chess and his constant ability to challenge and rethink moves that are being made on the board, and why we need a similar approach to the world of work, to continuously challenge convention, to try new things, and to not just accept things that are put in front of us. Interesting.
I needless to say, in the book we also talk about Carlsen and about how people are looking at the board. One of the conclusions that we came up with, which I think came from a discussion that Susan and I had about how investors often mess themselves up, is that they get so tempted to try new things without really having the ability to think it through. Now, like you said, the trillions of possibilities on the chessboard mean that there's so many different possibilities on the one hand. On the other hand, no one can imagine all of them. And I think having certain patterns that people can follow really is very helpful, because at the end of the day, when you're at the opening of a game, in the same way when you set up your portfolio, if you're 25 years old, you're a millennial, you just got a job, and you walk in, you have no idea what you should be doing about your 401k plan or about your stock option plan or about mutual funds or investing. It's useful to have certain patterns that you can follow, which I don't think limits what you're saying, which is, keep an open mind. But we found, at least, that a lot of the patterns that people have discovered and spend so much time working on, it really pays to learn from people who came before you try to, to break out and do something new.
Yeah, No, I agree. I mean, just like in the, as far as collaboration in the world of work goes, there's certainly a lot of things that have happened before. You learn from other organizations, you learn from best practices, you learn from failures and successes that other companies have gone through. But it's also good sometimes to experiment and think outside of the box a little bit, and to do it in a controlled way. If you're running a large organization, you're not all of a sudden just going to wake up and try an idea for 200,000 people. You're probably going to do it in a much more controlled, safe way. But yeah, I mean that completely makes sense.
Yeah, I think as part of my writing of the book with Susan, I felt I better try and keep my chess game going. So I hired a chess coach whose name obviously is Boris, because what would you expect? And so we were learning a new opening, as we've been working for a year on one opening and decided, okay, we'll switch to something new. And in trying this new opening, after just a few moves, I got crushed. I felt literally like I was a beginner in the game. And my conclusion from this was not that don't try new openings and don't try to learn a new idea, because like you're saying, you should definitely experiment and try new stuff. But my conclusion was don't do it when there's money on the table. With your own investments, or if you're playing in a tournament, don't say, hey, I think today I'll try the Sicilian opening, or the just to see if I can do better today. In situations where there's a lot on the line, don't take such big risks. Then go slowly but carefully. But I think in the strategy side of it, that's when you're planning or thinking it out, that's the time when it's really okay to think of new ideas. Jacob, I really like the fact that you bring in strategy from chess, and unfortunately also I like the fact that you said a lot of good things, but it's bringing us near to the end of our time. Just give us a little bit of information, A, how we can follow you, and B, how we can find out about when your new book comes out.
Sure. So probably the easiest thing for people to do is to follow me on Twitter, where my handle is @JacobM. I'd say that the second way is, people can connect with me directly on my blog, which is thefutureorganization.com. And then if people are interested in the book, they can go to Amazon and just search for my name, or go to Amazon and search for The Future of Work or The Collaborative Organization.
Is the book going to be already available, for pre-order?
Yeah, the book's available for pre-order now. It's actually sold a couple thousand copies already, so
wow.
It's up there.
All right, that is fantastic. I really wish you the best of luck on that. We'll, of course, put links to all of this on the show notes at goldsteinongelt.com. Jacob Morgan, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.